Dadalorian here, and I'm back with another article from the Screen Rant. Big shout out to Screen Rant. Definitely got to collab one of these days, man. I love you guys. I'm here for the Star Wars content. So you guys know why I'm here. But I love the articles that they put out, and this one was really fun. So I thought I'd read through it and give my thoughts on it. This one is Star Wars: The 8 Best Anti-Heroes to Watch on Screen, ranked. So let's check it out. So the Star Wars universe usually has traditional heroes and villains, but anti-heroes like Han Solo and Boba Fett walk the line, the fine line between the two. Definitely say Din Djarin, obviously being on the cover, would fit into that demographic as well. Um, so George Lucas' creation of Star Wars saga was influenced by classical mythology, specifically Joseph Campbell's research into the hero's journey. So its stories tend to feature straightforward heroes and villains. Luke Skywalker is a bright-eyed optimist with an unwavering drive to do the right thing, and although Darth Vader was later redeemed, he was initially introduced as the faceless embodiment of pure evil, which is pretty badass when you think about the origins of the character. So, but from ice cool gunslingers like Boba Fett and Han Solo to morally complex Force users like Anakin Skywalker and Asajj Ventress, there are plenty of Star Wars characters who walk the fine line between hero and villain. So number 8, Miggs Mayfield. Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. But Miggs, yes, definitely. He was like the asshole, of the group. This old gang that Mando used to be a part of, and then later in season 2, you see he definitely gets some redemption. He still has his edge. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you see he still has there's still some a moralistic heart to this guy, even with that little bit of edge that's to his personality and to his character. So I would definitely agree with that. He's one notable anti-hero that definitely deserves to be on the list. Number 7, Jango Fett. Absolutely, I would definitely agree with that. Let me see what they have to say though in the article, because I'm curious. Whole spill in Attack of the Clones, Jango Fett is introduced as a villain, as the job of assassinating Padme is outsourced to him. Obi-Wan tracks him down to the cloning operation on Camino. He gets into a gadget late in a fight, and eventually an intense space battle with the legendary Jedi. But Fett isn't a traditional villain with malicious intentions. He's just out for money so he can provide a good life for his clone son. By his own admission, Fett is just a simple man trying to make his way through the universe. I love that quote. But yeah, I love that about Fett. The Fetts in general, which I'm sure they'll probably put Boba Fett, on the list. Further down we go, but yeah, he's it's just business to him, and the same thing is I would say is to be said for Boba Fett, where don't take it personal if I kill you or if I beat you up and bring you to a buyer. It's just business, man. Like I'm not really trying to be evil. I'm not out here in these streets of the galaxy just trying to hurt people, man. I just want my kid to have a good life. What am what am I even saying? Lando Calrissian, interesting. But I guess that kind of makes sense. It's yeah, because I'm like, yeah, anti-hero. Yes, yeah, that's fair. Because he's the pretty boy. He's very the smoothest man in the galaxy. Might do some dicey things here and there, you know what I mean? That may be questionable. But at the same time, he still has a heart of gold. He still, helps out the rebels, still at the end of the day is trying to do the right thing. But how he goes about it at times, may it be questionable? Absolutely. But yeah, I could see that for sure, with him making that list of anti-hero. I don't know why it took me by surprise at first, because yeah, but if you know like how he was introduced, in Empire, and then in any other media outside of that, like especially in the comics and other novels, then you could be like, okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense for sure. And even his appearance, in Solo, a Star Wars story, there's still that vibe of like, he's an okay guy, but questionable at best. Questionable at best, for sure. As of interest at number 5, interesting. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely conflict more so with her character. Like if you guys watch Clone Wars, there's I think there was a lot of trying to live up to expectations when it came to Dooku and his presence in her life. Um, and then also, the Night Sisters. So she had a lot of stuff going on, but then there also came this point where she kind of just broke off and, started doing her own thing. And in certain, and I would say in those moments, you really got to see some of her own moralistic decisions being played out, which again, yeah, there were times where she was just pure out the bad guy, the villain for one episode. But then again, like I said, there were other moments where I could definitely see that a little bit of both and why that makes sense for her to be on this list of being like an anti-hero. So I agree with that. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is something that I've always known, but like yeah, maybe like what 2 months ago, I had a couple buddies from TikTok that are great Mandalorian cosplayers, like to the T, and it was a Mando Monday thing, and we were all on just talking about the Mandalorian, and we were talking about Boba Fett specifically, where some of the hopes for the book of Boba Fett is that Disney doesn't try to make him into a good guy, like he is a villain. He needs to stay that way. He needs to stay a villain. Villains can be cool, like he can make it look good. Villains can do good things, but at the end of the day, he's still a villain. Din Djarin, on the other hand, is an anti-hero. And it's interesting when you take a step back and you're like, yeah, you know what? That makes sense when you think about his character. Kind of dark, brooding kind of a character. Might leave a guy hanging up on a lamppost to get eaten by space dogs, but at the end of the day, he still takes care of a little baby Yoda, and he has a heart of gold. So again, it totally makes sense why Din Djarin would be on this list and very high up in terms of being an anti-hero. I absolutely agree with that. No bias at all, right? Anakin Skywalker, anti-hero? Yeah, yeah. I mean, problematic at best. My man's suffering for some mental health. Like, he he like destroyed Tusken Raider families, the men, the women, and the children too. Like uh if I knew like a guy that did that, I'd be like, yo, you need to go get some help, bro. Like, what's going on? But again, I think when you think of Anakin being on this list of being a anti-hero, I think it's a thing of like coming full circle with the story of he was the chosen one. He was, even though the way things turned out, nobody would have ever expected it to be that way for him to fulfill the prophecy, right? But he still did bring balance to the Force in the end of it all, when he did destroy Palpatine. And then it was in that moment of him connecting with Luke that he was brought back to the light side of the Force. So, yeah, obviously, guy has done some pretty shady stuff, and then got burnt to a crisp and lost a few limbs and turned into Darth Vader. But I definitely see the full circle thing makes sense for him to be an anti-hero, at least when you think of Anakin. Number 2, I knew this was going to be on the list for sure and very high up. Boba Fett, like, I could see him being an anti-hero, but it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. This, like, I figured he was going to be on the list, but I don't agree with this one. I don't agree with this one. I think Boba Fett he's a villain. He is, and his dad was a villain too. Like, I know there's aspects where you look at it and you're like, they look amazing, like they're badass, they're cool, and he makes it look good. You want to like know more about this guy, and that's why we have this show, which I'm super excited for. But at the same time, we don't have to get it twisted. Villains can make stuff look cool, man. And Boba Fett is one of those guys. Like, he's a bad guy, and that's okay. You know. So I don't really see him being on this list. I would probably go with more like Han Solo for sure. He should be like in that spot versus Boba, if anything, in my opinion. You guys let me know what you think. Okay, and then of course Han Solo's number 1, right? Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. I predicted it right. Again, he's kind of in that same sense of similar to Lando. Lando and Han are almost like the same guys, except one of them just does it a little more successfully. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Where you get what I mean? Like they're kind of like the same character in a sense, but one's just a little bit better at what they do in terms of making a profit and the glamour of kind of the rusty side of business in the galaxy for sure. So, but it makes sense for sure for Han Solo to be on this list. Is that all that they have? Yeah, I guess that's it. So I like this list. I think it was really fun. I like picking apart characters and just analyzing some of the top anti-heroes. It's fun looking at that. And again, especially for the Book of Boba Fett coming up, it's one of those things again, like that's the only thing I don't agree with in this article. Boba Fett is a villain. He's not an anti-hero. He may do things, villains can have morals too. Like Doctor Doom, for instance. One of the things I love that I believe is quoted from Stan Lee, where he was like, Doctor Doom wants to take over the world. That's not a bad thing. He wants to take over the world and rule it his way, but it's his tactics and the way he goes about it that can be problematic. You know what I mean? So it's like villains, they could have moralistic things that are good about them, but at the end of the day, they're still villains. And that's based on their actions, based on kind of the gist of their story, and that's okay. And I feel like for Boba Fett, just leave him there. Let him be a badass. Let him be the baddie that he deserves to be. I really want to see that in the Book of Boba Fett. So anyway, that's all I got to say about the article. Really enjoyed it. Shout out to Screen Rant. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Give this video a like. All of my TikTok people coming over to the channel, thank you so much, and I will see you for the next video. Peace.